terror attack
to
do hydrotherapy?
I did in hospital. I started already.
Wow.
But, and then to the center, you start like.
Sports are really important vehicles for relationships.
We have purpose. We have a why. We bring people together. We connect.
I feel like God is our greatest supporter and our greatest coach.
Welcome to Rabbi on the Sidelines. This is Rabbi Asael Shabo from Sinai Temple in Los Angeles. This week we are joined by my new friend, my new hero, Asael Shabo. Asael's from the Israel Paralympics Center. He was born in Itamar, a village, town, city?
Whatever you want.
Whatever we want to call it, Itamar. It's a beautiful place, And in 2002, you were injured and you lost some of your family in a terror attack. We'll talk about that physical injury, perhaps the emotional injury, but also what really began to help you emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and that is sports. You are part of the Israel Paralympics Center. Israel Paralympics Center, a friend of Rabbi on the Sidelines. They've been here just a couple of months ago with March with the wheelchair basketball team. And Asael Shabo is the former national champion in the 50-meter swimming, also part of the national wheelchair basketball team, now a professional wheelchair basketball player in Germany. I have so many questions to ask you about Asael. It's so wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Let's start before 2002 and talk about sports. What did it look like in Itamar? Who did you like? Was sports part of your life? And what did that look like?
I mean, 2002, I was only 9. So before that, you just do like sport with friends. You go to, but I was a very big soccer fan. I was a very good defender and goalkeeper. So that was like a hobby. But
so just a hobby, but nothing that you thought perhaps, one day I'll play for Maccabi Tel Aviv or Haifa or Hapoel Yerushalayim or anything like that.
When you grew up in Itamar, not even close.
Not even close.
The nearest sport is throwing stones.
We're not going to go over there right now, but even though sports was not part of your life, Judaism was. So what was it like 100%. Growing up in Itamar in the land of Israel?
I mean, growing up in Itamar was a very religious town, but it was wonderful. Like, religious in general and Judaism is very strong in who I am and was always like that.
And I don't want to focus on the negative. I want to focus on the optimistic, positive, the moment of tikva, of hope. But if just for a moment for our audience, you can share with us perhaps what happened in 2002 that led to your journey, that led to you here, to being here today.
Yeah, so exactly it was actually close to the end of the second intifada where the buses were exploded and the restaurants were exploding. So we were like the first house in the first street of Itamar.
Oh, wow.
And a terrorist that broke into the town just came to the first street, first house, broke into a house, and with a gun, 12 magazines. And he was in our house for around 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Using 10 magazines out of the 12. He came with around 5 grenades. I think he used all of them even. He came very protected with shields on himself and like vests and everything, well prepared. And he just started shooting as soon as he saw someone in the house. And the first room that he came in was the room that I was with my 3 brothers that died in the same room. So I was the only one surviving the room. And I remember like we watched a movie, we didn't hear him or saw him or anything. He just came into the entrance of the room and started shooting right away. And actually, he's used around 3 magazines only in our room, just shooting everywhere. And I was on the ground. I did get 3 bullets in my leg and also 2 grenades that explode really like inches next to me. So at the hospital, they couldn't save my leg, but they managed to save my life. But I also had 200 pieces of grenade that they took out of my body.
And your father was not home, but your mom was, and also lost her life on that fateful day.
Correct. My mom just went down the stairs and terrorists killed her in the stairs. And my sister also got hurt. She was in the top floor. So she hid under the bed and the terrorists didn't see her. But she did get, while the soldiers rescued her, the terrorist shot in their direction. She got a bullet in her belly and luckily it didn't hurt any internal organs. She was around 6 months in the hospital and healthy today, thank God.
And so for most people, this incident would have theoretically ended their life just emotionally and not know how to continue on. But somehow, even when you told me just before you were in the hospital, you connect with the Israel Parasport Center. What was the initial entry into this new world that created your new life?
So first, I always like to mention his name. His name is Reuven. He was one of our managers in the sports center, and he came to me because our story was well known in the news and back then. And he heard about the story, came to the hospital and said, "This is what we do. This is what we can offer you. How about you try?" And as a young boy, I was 9, and being in the hospital, and suddenly your whole life changes, and you're paralyzed to the bed, and you lost half of your family. I was like, take me out of here. So I accepted, of course, and I got to the sports center. And even before I chose any sport, even before I did anything physical, the first thing that you come in and nobody look at you differently, because in the hospital or wherever I went, in the mall, everybody look at you differently because you don't see a person without a leg every day, right? But in the sports center, everybody has a certain physical disability. Either you're in a wheelchair, you have a walker, you have crutches, you have a prosthetic leg, doesn't matter. But this kind of like moved aside for a second. So there was actually, I remember it very clearly, that was the first time where I didn't feel different. I didn't feel like all the eyes were on me. I was just another kid with another disability. And that's what kept me there. And this is why I'm still active, because the Power Sports Center for me is my second home. I grew up there, but today I have a bigger part of it, and just because I believe in it and I see what it can do.
And so let's start, I believe, with swimming. I read an article online that you, quote unquote, swam through your emotional trauma. What did swimming do? And we're going to talk about the Olympics in a few minutes as well, seeing what you're seeing there. But what did swimming do that really caught your attention and caught your heart and soul, which led to, I saw a video of you, many medals hanging in your bedroom?
Yeah, I have around 70 medals today. I did a very nice career, or not only in swimming, also in basketball today. But the first thing, swimming, I always loved water, so that was like kind of on the side. But swimming, especially because when I was in the hospital, everybody always came to visit friends or family or the doctors, and there was not even a single time where I was alone. And when I jumped to the pool, suddenly there's like this quiet, this peace. And that was the first time I had this peace. Nobody talks to you, nobody look at you, nobody wants something from you, and I just loved it. There was part of going through something difficult to mourn is having that space. This is why in Judaism we sit on the Shiva. We sit 7 weeks to mourn. You gotta have this space to do that, otherwise you cannot go past it. And I didn't have that phase. I couldn't mourn in the hospital where everybody come and you're a child, but when you're in the pool, suddenly you're by yourself. So the head start working and the thoughts pops up and everything floating. And I liked it. That was really connected me to my emotions, So in the beginning it was like, you can call it for the physical and the mental rehabilitation. But as a child, I just, it gave me so much. But afterwards, I shifted it into professional, but the beginning was definitely for that.
I'll just add a little humor to this. When we say this prayer for the state of Israel, we say, Avinu Sheba Shamayim. But when you jump into the pool, do you know what you say? Avinu Sheba Mayim. Our rock and redeemer in the pool.
That's very accurate.
You swim, and most kids swim and have a good time. But when did you realize in your athletic career that this could propel you to literally a national champion and represent Israel on a major stage?
So we host kids tournaments or kids competitions in the center for swimming, for all the other sports that we have. And I just participated in the swimming, and I did a good score, a good record. And I had a Russian coach, which was very strict with me, exactly what I needed. So he just pushed me to be better and be better and be better. And he said, even if you don't become professional, I just want you to be the best version of you. And eventually I was like, I want to do more. I went to the competition, I won a medal, but you feel like this was not enough. I want to be in not only the junior or the kids competition, I want to compete with the adults. I want to be abroad, Then they said there's a swimming competition in Berlin, in Germany. Would you like to try? I was like, I would love that, So I went for my first tournament in Germany, and that was really state of the art. Seeing the level, you swim with one leg, so you have a class in swimming, but when you look at the top level, it's not far from able bodies. It's really, we're very close. Like in 50 meters freestyle, they do around, I think world record is around 28 seconds. Don't get me on the exact number, but around that, below 30. The world record for people like me with one leg is around 31 seconds.
Wow,
so it's like
close.
2-3 seconds. It's really, really close. So to be in the top, it's you have to work really, really hard, and it's a lot of demand. So that was one of the reasons I changed to basketball. I needed something more social. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting when you talk. I mean, we're watching the Olympics right now, and there's the individual as part of the team, but it's not necessarily the team aspect that you're talking about, passing the ball and relying on each other. Just a shout out to one of our other guests, a Rabbi on the Sidelines, Yoav Bruck, common friend of yours, Israeli Olympian.
Yeah.
And I know he's in Paris right now actually cheering on Team Israel and what they're going through as well. So you do the swimming piece and then you transfer to basketball, enter the basketball world for us. And what did you find there that you love that you're continuing today as in your 30s?
Before that, I'll tell you a little bit one thing about wheelchair sport. Not only basketball. In my case, it is basketball, but there is enough other wheelchair sports. So when you don't use a wheelchair in your daily life, like me, doing sport on a wheelchair is like a big no. And I've been offered a lot of times to do tennis or rugby or basketball, and I was like, I don't use a wheelchair. Why would I do sport on a wheelchair? So there is this assumption that you kind of like making your situation worse in a way.
Right.
You know? So
it's actually interesting that you say that because we're on this Bima, and I emailed you and I said, oh, wait, we're on this Bima, but can you actually come up? Because I assume wheelchair basketball meant in wheelchair. And so that sort of dichotomy is very interesting.
Yeah, we would have found a way anyway. But the thing is that you need to shift it in your head, and I've been often, and I always said, no, I don't use a wheelchair. And when I quit basketball, there was like the moment where I said, why not? I will try that. And I I sat on a wheelchair. I will never forget my first training. I already knew how to maneuver a wheelchair because I had it in the hospital for enough time. But to do it professionally with the ball, I never played basketball. As I said, I was a soccer fan, and I knew how to do it with the leg.
God forbid you touch a ball with the hands.
Yeah, I have a joke for that. In Hebrew we say kaduregel,
which
is
football
for one leg, kaduregel. So I said, this is for me. But anyway, yeah. And I sat on the chair, and it was just the first place where you really acquire social life. Being a disabled, going to school, all of your friends going to after-school programs, and you cannot. So you basically stay alone, and this is one of the biggest obstacles I experience today as a mentor for the next generation in the center. They're experiencing a lot of social difficulties, and they want to acquire those skills. Mm-hmm. And this is what the biggest part for what I'm trying to do for these kids is helping them acquire these tools, and for me as well. So in the basketball, it's not only passing the ball to each other, it's showering together afterwards, is having lunch together, is driving to a game together in a bus, all of us together. It's just, my best friends today are actually from the basketball world, in Israel and around the world. But it's just gives you so much for your life, beside being a real professional athlete. But there's so much more around it. That even my wife, I met in basketball. So
how did you do that?
I had a European Championship in Madrid. Sorry, in Spain, not in Madrid. It was in Tenerife, actually, on the island. And I played against Poland, or we played against Poland, the national team, and I scored, I think, 34 points or something like that.
That's it?
That was like an average day in that case. Now, I was young. I was like, I think 21, 22. I was really in the beginning, and the coach of Hamburg from Germany, he came to the tournament looking for players, and he saw me, and he came and he said, like, why don't you come to my club? And Hamburg is a club with a lot of history. And I said, yes, sure, I will go. I just graduated college for physical education and sports management. So I was like, it's exactly what I want for the next step. So I accepted. I went to Hamburg for 2 years, and I met my wife over there in the physiotherapy world. She's a former physiotherapist, and we met through the physiotherapy world, and the rest is history.
Ironically, you're not a wheelchair basketball in Israel right now, but you're a wheelchair basketball in Germany.
Correct.
Over this last year specifically, what has that been like representing Israel, even though you're not wearing an Israeli jersey, but being an Israeli in your DNA in Germany? Any challenges, achievements as a shaliach to the world of Israel?
First of all, I like challenges. Let's start with that. And going to Germany is a challenge, with all the history and a lot of friends, even my big brother said, I remember when he was younger, he said like, I will not visit that country due to the history, and I said the opposite. I want to go and I want to, first of all, experience it on first hand, but on top of it, actually maybe show a better side of Israel, better side of Jews, better side of ourselves, And today I have to say, especially since the war, I'm very glad that I'm in Germany, not anywhere else, because Germany has been maybe the best friend of Israel right now in these days, and they don't allow protest. You get a fine if you show the Palestinian flag. There's no protest allowed, especially not where I live in the central of Germany.
Even against the referees, no protest?
No, it's not allowed to have. And they, as a country, they shifted everything since World War II, and they became a very strong economy country. And, if you ask me why we cannot do that in the Middle East, we can. But the solution is, I always say, it's a long-term solution. And the problem is that in politics, you always have a short-term solution because you have 4 years seat, and nobody thinks about what happened the day after. But to me, I believe in education. I said, I'm coming from education. I work with education. This is a big part of who I am. And education is the way to change things in this world, in my opinion. This is the only way. But this takes time. And we don't have that time in politics.
So one of my guests last year was named Professor David Hollander from NYU. He wrote a book called How Basketball Can Save the World. And he said exactly what you said, that basketball is in fact education because of all the components that you just said. How has basketball in your life opened your life into something that if the terror attack in 2002 didn't happen, you would not have opened your life to?
I'll give you a best example. When I signed in a contract in Hamburg with that coach, the week after I signed the contract, they posted an Iranian player will join the team. So I texted the coach right away and I asked him, is it okay? Is he fine playing with me? I had no problem playing with him, obviously, but I made sure that he has no problem playing with me. I didn't know what to expect. And he talked to him, he said, no problem. I picked him up from the airport, and since then until today, he's like a big brother to me. We are really best friends. He's an amazing guy, and we had things I'm not gonna say on camera, but he's an amazing guy and a very big Israeli supporter. So I definitely met a lot of people I wouldn't meet if I wouldn't be disabled or going through everything I went through, but or doing basketball. So it is a big bridge. I can tell you that all the Iranians, or not only Iranians in general, but all of our people that their country is not a friend of Israel, they all love us. Even in Turkey, we experience it. You know, the politics is one thing, but how the people are experiencing it and seeing it is a whole different story.
And a couple of years ago, you got a phone call, I believe, while you were putting your son to bed, that you were going to have an honor in the land of Israel. And that was to light the Masua, the torch, on Israel's Independence Day on Har Herzl. What did that mean to you? I know it surprised you. And why were you chosen? And tell us about that moment.
First of all, it was an unbelievable moment in my life. You know, it was the same year I just had my baby, and he was like 3 months old, sitting in the mountain of Jerusalem in the freezing cold. But it was an experience for a lifetime, definitely. The honor to stand on that stage and represent something. You know, if you're on that stage, you represent something. And I believe I was chosen to represent people with disabilities in Israel. And that was even before the war. I think today in this world, we look at it totally different. But even before that, it just shows that we were on the right path, in this case, of people with disabilities, of inclusion, you know? And to me, it was a big honor. And even in my speech, it was very important to me that when I wrote my speech, that it's not about me or my story. It's about going through an obstacle, going through a challenge, and finding a way to survive and be successful with it. You know, and that's something I said this morning to one of my friends. I said, things that you don't have control of, because I don't have control over losing my family and losing a leg. And this will not change. Every morning I wake up, this is my reality. So I have no power or no way to control it or to change it. The only thing I have power is what do I do with it? What do I do afterwards? And this is what I tell to the kids that they come to the center for the first time, and they're like so hopeless, you know? And their parents also, not only them, the whole family, you know, they all come with so many challenges and thought that it's going to be so terrible, and then you just tell them, so he's sitting in a wheelchair, so you don't have a leg, so you have a walker, so whatever. Does not mean that you cannot have a family, you cannot have a career, you cannot be a good person. First thing is to be a good person, do something meaningful, do something important. And when you look back, I want to look back in my life. I'm 30 now, but it was always like that. I want to look back and tell to myself, I did something good in this world. I left a good impression. You know, I don't need to be written in history. I don't need to be Herzl or Ben Gurion. You know, but in my own, we say, you know, in Judaism, Daled Amot. In my four corners, exactly. I want to be the best I can.
Wow, I love that. I love that. And if you think about since October 7th, a lot of people that maybe have come to the Parasport Center are people that also have been injured in this type of war, where your life changes in a moment, right? We in this country, actually, we do more often now with U.S. veterans, but the fact that you were transformed by a terror attack, and Israel is being ridiculed all around the world right now. What are your message to the younger generation, parasport or not, about what sport can do to change the world?
Can change the world, can change people's life. I was not in Israel when the war started. I was in Germany. I actually had a home game on that Saturday, and I came to the field, and that's a whole different story. But when I went to Israel, and I visited Israel like 2 months after, roundabout, and the first thing, from the airport, I went direct to the hospital to visit friends that lost their leg. My neighbor lost his leg. Wow. We grew up together.
A neighbor from Itamar.
A neighbor of Kdumim, since we moved to Kdumim after the attack. So a neighbor of mine, he lost his leg, and his sister called me and said, I know a lot of people who either died, unfortunately, or got injured in this war, serving in the army. All of my classmates, they're all in elite units in the IDF, and they're all serving. And some of them got hurt, some of them died, some of them are still fighting. And basically to see them and to see, like, you know, I give you one example from the sports, and we have been existed for over 60 years. So we have a lot of experience. They just started, you know. So when I look at them, it goes back to me where I started, you know, and it didn't change much. You know, people say, like, it's a big surprise, it's a new Holocaust. What I've been through in my house, in my family, is a very minor, you know, it's one home of what happened on October 7th. But there is a lot of similarities, you know, and I say it didn't change. Esav soneh leYaakov since the Bible. And this is what I believe in until today. It will not change. But what we have to do is, as I said, we cannot change it. We cannot change the hate. We cannot change people, you know, wanting to hurt us. Mm-hmm. What we can change is what is in our power.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. And so this podcast, I like to say, is the intersection of sports and faith, of emunah. What part of emunah, faith, played a role either in your recovery, or I know also sometimes the emunah was not there, and it shouldn't be in the difficult times that you went, that God is somewhere else?
There was a lot of obstacles, especially when I grew up a little bit, became a teenager. You know, you ask questions on every aspect. It's not only about the faith or believing in God. I believe in God. God is a big part of who I am. My name is Asael, you know, it's made by God. And I take it with me every day, and I'm very proud of it. But there's definitely things that I used to do before, or I didn't do before, and I do today. It changes you in every aspect. But faith is what keeps you. You know, you get up in the morning, and you need to have belief, you need to have faith, you need to have a goal that keeps you to go forward. If you don't have faith, if you don't have a goal, there is nothing that will push you forward. And before we had a country, as in Israel, our goal was to have a country. Now our goal as a country, as a nation, is to be able to protect ourselves. Right. You know, so that's why I believe
not
in
only
faith,
to protect ourselves, but an or lagoyim, a light unto the nations. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you about the piece of Israel, specifically in the Olympics and the synchronized swimming, actually, where here they were sort of ridiculed and you can't wear a jersey or anything, but then what happens, they do this unbelievable thing where they do bring them home now in a yellow ribbon in the pool. Almost like it's in your face, but I think it's actually not about anybody else, but about who we are. What have you seen in the Olympics over the last couple of days that you see that is really the character of Israel that people should take home from this sporting competition?
Exactly. And you know, when they talked about it, they mentioned the Munich Olympic Games in '73, and to me, that was like, you know, it feels a little bit similar, and thank God this so far is going smooth, and we actually even won a few medals, so we are very proud of the Jews today. You know, there's also 2 Jews so far that won medals,
right?
That are not Israel, not competing for Israel. But anyway, every goal that we reach today, there's much more pride to me, and I feel like, and it's, you know, seeing those athletes standing on the podium in the biggest tournament in the world right now with everything's happening and just, you know, playing the anthem. I cannot ask for more than that, you know.
Tell us about your young child and the dreams that you have for him, I believe, and how you'll incorporate the lessons that your mom taught you to her grandson.
My mom taught me to be a good person. First thing first. Treat everybody with respect. You know, because they say in the Bible, you feed your animal before you eat, you treat people equally, you know, ואהבת לרעך כמוך.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Exactly. So this is the main thing I took from my mom. This is the main thing that I follow, and this is the main thing that I will teach my son. First of all, be a good person. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter what you've been through. Be a good person, first of all. On top of it, if you want to be an athlete, want to be whatever you want to be, I will support him, and I will give him the love. But definitely, you know, learning to be a proud Israeli, and that's very important, especially in these days. You know, have growing up in Germany, growing up in Israel, having this. I know it might affect his future a little bit with growing up with this conflict, but he's going to be a strong person. I'm sure of that.
And you're here for the first time, but the Paris Sports Center is here for the second time. What is something that we should know about the Paris Sports Center that we don't know yet, that should make sure that people tune in, because products like you are coming out of the land of Israel?
We need more money.
Keep it going.
Yeah. No.
Floor is yours.
I have.
What is that money for? No, really. What
so
why?
we have over 2,500 members, and we focus mainly on physical disabilities. We do have some programs for mental disabilities, but we focus mainly on the physical. And basically, it's just giving people hope, you know, giving those kids. I grew up there. I know what it does to me. I don't think I would have been in the same spot and the person who I am today without growing up in the center. Mm-hmm. And that's the main reason I'm still doing it, and even a more active member of the center, because I know what it can do for your life. It can change your life 100%. It can help you find a job. I give you one example. The younger generation than me, those who are now 18, 19, a lot of them volunteer to the army, and that's something that my generation in the center just started, who was in the diapers, you know, and now it's becoming much more. And it's not only doing something meaningful going to the army, and the kids are so proud. They come to the center with the uniforms, you know, and they feel so proud, and everybody's looking at them. And for me, it's just like one generation raising another generation. And it's just like the CEO of the center, Boaz, he was the one who gave me direction. He was the one who helped me find, you know, have a meaning in my life, you know, having a degree. He was the one pushing me to having. I'm the one pushing the next generation to have a degree, to believe in themselves, to find a relationship. And while they already have a relationship, they also ask me questions about that. So being married helps, you know.
Actually, outside on our Beit Knesset, we have the words L'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. I never thought about it in the sports world, that you were brought up by this Paris Sports Center, and now you are passing that knowledge, tradition, love, and competitive nature to that next generation, so that they too can love their neighbor and most importantly, love themselves. Yeah. And so we are truly honored to be joined by Asael Shabo, not defined by who you are not, but rather defined by who you are and what you can be and what you teach us. It's a pleasure to have you here at Sinai Temple and Rabbi on the sidelines, and as we like to say with our Israeli guest, Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai.